welcome. So you grew up in Worcester. What
Right.
was your relationship in those early days with Cleveland?
Well, very little. Occasionally the family would come to Cleveland for a day of shopping, and my cousin and I would vie for who was going to see the Terminal Tower first. We came up Route 3 all the way West 25th Street and all that. Then we'd spend the day shopping, eating at Mills or the Silver Grill, and it was just great sport to do that as a youngster before I came here after college.
All right, so start with after college.
Okay. When I first moved to Cleveland, I had been given a job with the Cleveland Public Library just as an aide because I had a music degree from Worcester. But, well, I'd also worked in the local library there. And I think my minister probably had something to do with finding me a place to live. And I can see the roof of that building over there, the Evangeline, on Ansel Road, just a block or so beyond the Ansel Road Temple. And I stayed at the Evangeline off and on for about 6 years. It was a woman's residential hotel, and it was run by Salvation Army. They didn't put any demands on us, but they had a worship service maybe once a week. We could come or not. They served breakfast, they served dinners, and it was young unmarried women who worked in the area, were new to town. As people would get acquainted with each other, they'd get together, get an apartment, and move out. There was one lady there who was 35, and we thought she was ancient. Why was she there so old? Because most people were gone before that. But at one time early on, I moved from the Evangeline into an apartment with a friend on Shaker Boulevard. But when she got married and her husband moved in, I came back to the Evangeline. So I was there a total of about 5 or 6 years at the Evangeline. Now, while I was there, it was very simple to take the bus downtown. It was a safe neighborhood, night or day. Took the Huff bus or the Wade Park bus downtown. If I worked the evening shift and got home at 9:30 or 10, just walked from the bus stop to the Evangeline. No problem, no danger. But we enjoyed doing that sort of thing. One time during the winter of 1950 was the big snowstorm. And everything was snowed shut. I mean, really snowed shut. And we were pretty much entrapped in the Evangeline, and the staff couldn't get in, so the girls pitched in and helped prepare the meals. With food apparently was enough on hand that we could do that. And after 2 or 3 days of that, some of us went stir crazy. We just had to get out. Everything was snow covered. Nothing had been dug out. But we floundered out with our boots and got ourselves down to 105th and Euclid. All those shops, everything just about was closed, but there was a Gray's drugstore at 105 and Euclid on the southwest corner, and it was open, operating by candlelight. I don't know that the lights had been out elsewhere, but I remember it was so dark and they were using candlelight, and they were doing a great business of people who somehow got out and had to do some shopping. But for youngsters, this was a lark, just to make our way up there and back. Well, eventually, I paired up with one of my roommates again, and with another roommate from a friend over here. And I became very active with the church across the street, Epworth Euclid at that time it was known as. And I sang in the choir, would walk back and forth in the evening for rehearsals. Sunday mornings, give it no thought whatsoever. But 3 of us teamed up in an apartment. We went to Shaker Square for living purposes, but we were very active in this church over here where I enjoyed, and I still am a member there, and I still sing in the choir, and the years have gone by. But that worked out very well, off and on there and up at Shaker Square. And at one point, the cost of living was going up. The library salaries were not going up very often. My roommates had all got married, so I took an apartment at the end of Cornell Road. It's the one apartment building that's still there. It looks nice, but it was not well maintained. And I'd fuss and fuss and fuss about trying to keep the place clean, but still there'd be creepy crawlers, and the laundry was in the basement, and it was quite dim and dark, and that could be accessed from outside. Anyone could walk in. It was just a very unhappy situation, but I couldn't afford more than that. So I decided I had to moonlight at something or other. Oh, in the meantime, Robert Shaw had come to town, and I got in the Cleveland Orchestra Chorus. He put me in the first sopranos. Well, I didn't object. I could sing anything at that point. High C was a little flat, but we didn't have to sing many high Cs. But it was wonderful singing with the Cleveland Orchestra Chorus with Robert Shaw, and I survived every audition, all the 11 seasons he was here, and stayed during the duration of several other people. But at any point, when I was living on Cornell, it was easy enough to get to the church and to Cleveland Orchestra. But that apartment was just too much. I needed something more, but I couldn't afford anything more. So I began moonlighting as an alto soloist at Plymouth Church in Shaker Heights. And then, since I had to give up the voice teacher I had at the church, which came with the deal, if you sang in the choir, you got free voice lessons. Westminster choir master people would do that. I had to find a voice teacher. So I began taking voice lessons over here at the Music School Settlement with Polly Tessmacher, who was one of the named people at that time. The student before me was Seth McCoy, who later went on to be the Grand Metropolitan Opera and a faculty member at Eastman. Very nice fellow. And on the other side of my lesson was Bill Dempsey, very fine bass. So I felt like an Oreo there, the sandwich in between. They were both so fabulous, but they were awfully nice guys, especially Seth. He was a peach of a fella. But he wasn't really the operatic type, so I can see why he was better for oratorio and teaching at Eastman, which he did, and I think he's long gone. I think Bill Dempsey is still someplace in the area. I'm not quite sure about that. So in the meantime, I'd got my library degree from Case. It was Western Reserve at that time. They had a master's degree in library science. And that was required because I wanted to move up from just being an aide at the library. I wanted to be a music librarian. Well, Ms. Shamp, you don't have a library degree. So I put myself through school. Well, the library at that time was open evenings, too. So I could walk across from when I was at the Evangeline first and then later other places, walk over to Thwing Hall, I think it was, where the library school classes were held. And I'd go classes in the morning, walk or take the bus down to the library, work during the daytime, and take the bus home at night. And then later I was doing the same thing at the Shaker Square area. So I got my library school degree, and then the salaries eventually came up so I could afford a decent apartment on my own salary. So I moved back to the Shaker Square area. But I maintained after a while, when the salaries did come up, I didn't need to keep that job, that extra job at Plymouth Church of Shaker Heights. I moved back to this church, and I could get there easily enough because people in the choir would go by where I lived at Shaker Square, pick me up, take me home. So that worked out very well, and I guess that sort of covers it. I moved here when I finally retired from the library in the year 2000. I moved here because I had friends who lived here. The Wismars were here, and I can't think of her name. Another lady who was a member of the church, and so forth and so on. But this is the place I've come, and I'm still active in the church, which is now united with another Methodist church, and we're University Circle United Methodist Church. And it's very handy to sing in the choir, to go to the services, to enjoy the minister we have, who is top drawer, incidentally. He's a powerhouse. So that pretty much brings up to date.
That's a lovely story. Music has not been a focus of anybody, other than the orchestra.
Yeah, yeah.
We've recorded, so this is very
Yeah.
important and good. Wonderful. Anything else you want to tell us?
Well, I can't think of anything in particular. What questions would you like to ask?
I have one question. Can you tell me what years approximately you were in the Cleveland Orchestra Chorus?
Yeah, I began before Shaw came, I think about in 1952. Russell Gee and Bob Stouffer, I believe, were the conductors. And we sang the Beethoven Ninth, and we sang the Beethoven Ninth, and we sang the Beethoven Ninth, and I was getting so tired of it. Freude, schöne Goethe. So when Shaw came to town, I remember I was living at the Evangeline at the time, and I was reading the newspaper in their library, and it said Robert Shaw was moving to Cleveland. Wow! I let out a shriek. It's a wonder they didn't call the firemen or something. So auditioned with him, and that's how it happened. So I joined the Cleveland Orchestra Chorus about 52. Shaw came in 54. And I was with it for the next 20 or 30 years. Among other things, some of us got to go for the Casals Festival in Puerto Rico and sang with Casals. It was a dear little man. Terrible conductor, but a dear little man. Oh, what wonderful memories we had of the Cleveland Orchestra Chorus. And we sang in Carnegie Hall, and we sang for the United Nations, and it was just a great experience to do that.
So you were there through Shaw?
All through Shaw.
And then,
Well, let's see, what else do we have? Margaret Hillis, and that didn't work so well. And Shaw's henchman, I can't think what his name was. He was an awfully nice guy, but he wasn't terribly good. And we got Robert Page. Well, Robert Page had a mean streak, I thought. And I just got to the point I couldn't take any more of that. He was the kind of person, you've been rehearsing for an hour or two, and he says, sing it, sing it, sing it. Well, people tighten up, and I heard people that I knew were really good singers choke up and sound terrible, and others had had nerves of steel and would come up smelling like roses. And I just got so disgusted one night. I thought, I've about had it with him. A few days before that, we'd had a concert performance, and we were rehearsing in Rheinberger downstairs. And I could see he was going down the line, and he was going to get to me. And I thought, damn it, I'm Marilyn Horne. And Paige looked at me, well, all right. But I'd had it with him, so I quit the chorus under Robert Page and then never went back. But good experiences, and I still go to the Cleveland Orchestra concerts. We have shuttle service from here going to the orchestra on Thursday evenings and on Friday mornings, and I get to a lot of the concerts.
do you ever go back down to Worcester?
Oh, yes. Ohio Light Opera. We went down this year. Again, we've got shuttle service from here. I've got friends there, too, and sometimes I go down with another Cleveland friend to visit the friend in Worcester. But I love going to the Ohio Light Opera. They do a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw them last night.
What did you see?
Troubadour. Madam
Pompadour. I'd heard of that one. It's Offenbach, isn't it? Yes.
No,
Isn't it?
no. It's a Frank Wall. It's not someone.
Oh.
We went
Oh.
to Cole Porter this year,
Oh.
and we've gone every year.
Yeah. We wanted to go see Jubilee, but our bus didn't take us to
Jubilee
that.
was wonderful. The stories are always so hokey.
Oh, well, yes.
But the costumes last night were wonderful. The voices were wonderful.
Yeah.
It was special.
We saw Camelot. And especially Dick Gardner. I don't know that you've got him coming. Probably not. Dick Gardner felt, as I did, that the soprano in Camelot was far better than the ones we'd heard in anything else. Usually, as Dick says, the sopranos tend to sound shrill, and I say they tend to sound edgy. But the soprano in Camelot had a beautiful voice, and however unlikely the story, it was beautifully done. We thought about the best thing we'd ever seen there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
We've been going for a while.
Yes, I guess you would. So you get back there fairly often.
We go at least twice a summer.
Oh,
because
good.
Lois is still down there. Lois
Uh-huh.
and Mimi comes up. She was with us.
Yeah, it's good.
Anyway.
Good.
Well, it's fun to talk to you. Obviously.
Yeah.
Lots of memories. My family came up for college. That's when they came up. They moved up here when the first ones were ready for school
Uh-huh.
and for temple,
Oh, yes.
Sunday school, religious school.
Yeah,
They came up to go to Sunday school.
yeah.
So,
Oh, that was another thing. I sang with the Jewish Singing Society and helped fill in for various things. One time we were singing for a High Holy Days over at Severance Hall with a small pickup group, about a dozen of us hiding behind the palm trees, and all of a sudden we had an electronic organ. We could hear crackle, crackle, crackle. And we thought, oh, is that shorting out? What's happening? No, somebody in the first row was unwrapping a candy bar. But those were fun times too. On the days that we were there, the whole day we'd potluck and people be bringing in something to eat for the lunch and everything.
family of another sort.
Yeah, right.
It really is.
Definitely so.
Every one of those groups are wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you remember Marjorie Winbigler?
Oh, very, very well. She was a librarian. I'll never forget that. I'll never walk through that park alone at night. I just wouldn't do it because they never did find out what happened to her, although they have ideas. You'd heard that.
No, I haven't.
Well, apparently one of the mental patients from the VA hospital had escaped that evening and turned up the next morning very disheveled and bloodied. And they just kind of think that might be it, but the person was so out of it that they couldn't say. But yes, Marge was a librarian and a friend of mine. I'll never forget that.
I'm sorry to bring up an unpleasant.
Well, but it was University Circle. Yeah, but that definitely was University Circle. My window faces that lagoon. I love that lagoon. And at night, sometimes I'll hear things out there. There's no way under the sun that I would go out to investigate. Not after dark.
But I think they're trying to make it
Oh, yeah.
safer today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're working on all aspects of that.
Yeah.
Do you ever go on Wednesdays at the Wade Oval? Wow, Wednesdays?
No, I don't get over that way. Our activities director, athletic director here takes us on walks around the lagoon a couple times a week, weather permitting and so forth and so on, and that's always pleasant.
People's favorite place.
Yeah, to walk around. I like to sit up on the roof and read, and I'll see people strolling around. And wedding processions, a lot of wedding processions.
Right. Weddings.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Children's Museum when I worked there, and I'd take the children over. They were engaged with the weddings as much as with anything.
Yeah, I can
Showing
imagine.
them or taking them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Before
Thank
we
you.
leave, could you state your name for the record? We didn't get that at the beginning. I like to have it
Yes, we need to know your
on
name.
tape.
Well, my legal signature is the initial B, middle name Kathleen, last name Shamp. I always tell people, think of shampoo, leave off the oo. Otherwise, they're going to misspell it.